everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of No Bullshit Talks. I'm pleased to be joined here today by Jo Caruana, who is the founder of a PR and comms agency called Finesse Group. So welcome, Jo.
Oh, thanks so much, Sabrina. It's fab to be here. And I love your podcast, big fan of it. And I'm looking forward to delving into our convo today.
Yeah, I'm excited too. But first of all, tell me, are you currently sitting on your boat?
I'm currently sitting on my boat. Yes.
I can't believe it. So I find this so fascinating. Like, I think I've only ever met a couple of people before who lived on boats. You run a PR agency from your boat. I find that so fascinating. So tell me how that works.
So this was a lifestyle change that kind of came about. I don't know, we planned it loads, but it kind of just happened. It feels like it just happened. So yes, we live on a canal boat in a beautiful village called Great Bedouin, which is about an hour on the train outside of London. We do also live on a boat in Malta because we split our time between Malta and the UK. So we have a sailing boat out in Malta, and it was a lifestyle decision, right? So we moved from a house onto the boats to kind of readdress work-life balance, but equally bring adventure into the everyday. Both my husband and I, we love having a sense of adventure. We love being constantly on the move, constantly meeting new people, doing things that little bit differently, thinking outside the box. We both wanted to live more eco-friendly lives as well. So no, we are completely off-grid, which is really amazing. So we produce all of our own electricity, and there are days when I have to choose between the kettle or the hairdryer. Only one of them is going to be powered enough for me to actually make it work. So it was just really about questioning the way we do things and seeing if we could make it work. We both run businesses, and the amazing thing is that it's worked. We love it. So the whole business is run from this canal boat now, and that's a team of 18 people sort of collaborating, working remotely. And the beautiful thing is that it's made no difference whatsoever to the business. If anything, it's galvanized it, and I think it's it's fun, it's quirky, and people love hearing about it. And it's it's a base for the team to come and visit us, and it's something a little bit different. So yeah, if you'd said to me a couple of years ago you'll be living on a boat and you'll be running the business from a boat, I would have said forget it. Everything has to work the way it's always worked, the way we've always done it. But now it's really fun to kind of prove myself wrong.
That is amazing. I think it's so exciting. I'm just laughing at the whole kettle versus hairdryer thing. I was thinking, well, if you've got wet hair, at least you've got a hot cup of tea to make it
and that's fine. There are days when that's totally fine. But it really is a mad lifestyle. I mean, first thing that happens in the morning is the two local swans come and bang on the side of the boat, and they get their oats in the morning, every morning. It's just a totally and they fling themselves at the boat to make sure that we can hear them. That Jemima and Puddle, my two, one of them's quite aggressive.
Puddle duck.
Exactly. I think Jemima might be a boy, but I can't be sure. Never mind. And it's it's a totally different way of life, and I love it.
It sounds so exciting. Although I feel like I could never do that. How do you deal with Wi-Fi? Surely that, I'm talking to you right now, and it sounds great. How do you have such good Wi-Fi?
Do that was something that we really worried about. And there is YouTube video after YouTube video of how to choose the right Wi-Fi for the boat. But it's probably some of the best Wi-Fi I've ever had. It's a mobile data thing that just proves that you can be anywhere in the world now and have great Wi-Fi. I have better Wi-Fi on the boat than I had in my house. So
I can't believe it. I just can't believe it.
Pretty good. And yeah, we just, wherever we go on the boat, because obviously we live in a particular area on a particular mooring, but we travel on the boat quite a lot, because otherwise what would be the point? And wherever we go, the Wi-Fi is amazing on the canals. So yeah, if that's what's holding you back, do it.
Oh my God. And so how do you make your own electricity? Can I just ask how that actually works?
Well, believe it or not, even in the UK, solar is incredibly effective. So we have solar panels on the roof, and the huge majority of the time, that is enough to power our lifestyle. So 4 solar panels are up there doing everything that we need them to do. And then on the rare occasions that we can't get enough from the solar panels, so usually that'll happen if we've got 3 or 4 days back to back where there's no sun whatsoever, like that really grey kind of
UK
weather.
Grey.
UK grey. Then we run the engine, or we go for a cruise, and that's enough to kind of bring the battery up. So the engine powers the battery.
That's it. That's as simple as that.
That's it. I mean, we're aware of it in a way that I was never aware of energy before I moved into a house. I wasn't the kind, I've always lent towards eco, saving the world, green, and all of that. And I was doing loads. I felt like I was doing loads, but did I know the difference between, charging my laptop or boiling the kettle? If I'm honest, I didn't really. I didn't really understand what went into that. And I think a lot of people don't. It's not the kind of stuff that we just know. So now we've become so aware of every little thing and what it takes to power the laptop, what it takes to charge your phone, what it takes to run the fridge. And there are days where maybe we'll turn the fridge off overnight kind of thing so that we conserve a bit of energy. And that makes absolutely no difference because it's the UK and it doesn't even get that cold overnight or whatever. So nothing even remotely changes. But we've made little shifts in our lifestyle that I think have made a big difference. And I do feel like I'm starting to get it slowly.
Well, I find it fascinating. I honestly find it incredible. Like, I just think, how can you run a whole agency from a boat? And it's so exciting. You just can just sail anywhere whenever you feel like it, which is so cool. I mean, where have you sailed to? So, like, what do you not just get? Do you feel like sometimes you just, on a nice day, like the weather's getting a bit nicer, do you think, oh, I'd love to sail to? It's like, do you just do that on a whim?
Yeah, we do. I mean, obviously, the agency is still really busy. So I tend to kind of, whenever the team's working, I want to be around to kind of support and make sure. But on the weekends, we cruise most weekends, good weather, bad weather. It's really good fun. The canal network in the UK is amazing. It's quite limiting. So you can kind of only go one of two ways. Most cases, you're going left or right. Yeah, I mean, we started cruising in a place called Newbury, which is a really lovely town. Again, about 40 minutes outside of London. And we're doing the Kennet and Avon Canal. So we're going through all the little villages. And obviously there's pubs everywhere you go. So you have to stop and experience the pub. And meeting people, the boating community is amazing, super creative people all along the network. So it's a very slow lifestyle. I think I have slowed down 100% from a mental kind of space. Because like you, Sabrina, I know you're super busy. You're super, you're packing loads into your week. This lifestyle kind of removes that a little bit. And I started with that during COVID. I remember March 2020, I went from having like 8 meetings a day, all in person, racing across wherever I was going and packing everything into a day. And then I do a bit of theatre as well. So rehearsals in the evening, like everything was just packed in, to now being fully remote. And the day is so much calmer. And I think that's been the biggest change for me, that kind of shift. But honestly, that was probably COVID more than the boat. And then this lifestyle kind of emerged out of the fact that, no, I probably don't need to do much in person anymore. And nobody noticed. And again, I'm choosing not to be offended by the fact that nobody seems to have noticed.
But there must be things that you've missed out on. Like you said, it slows you down. So by definition, if you're slowing down, you're probably cutting a few things out of your life. So what have you had to cut out of your life by living on a boat?
That's such an interesting question. I think probably if I had to start thinking it through, there's a lot that I've cut out. So it's that manicness, isn't it? It's that sort of the meeting. I do meet people in person a lot less. So now it's kind of a conscious choice. I want to meet this person for coffee. Okay, so I'm going to go into London and do that. I need to have that face to face. So I'd say the biggest thing is cutting out all non-essential travel and in person. And I'm sure probably if I had to kind of be, if I had to really analyze it, have I missed out on certain things? Probably, yes. But there's that JOMO, isn't there? That kind of joy of missing out a little bit. I've become less about manically wanting to sort of make sure I'm not missing out on anything, and just really consciously choosing what I want to be there for. Also, my business was primarily in Malta before we moved to the UK. So that's changed a lot. Not having that same lifestyle in Malta, which is a very busy island. I think, have you been there, Sabrina? Have you been to Malta?
I have. I love traveling. So I've been to a lot of countries.
I know.
81 countries.
Amazing.
Yeah. So there's only actually, I think, 6 in Europe that I've not been to. So, which are kind of random as well. So probably it was struggle to find people to come with me. But yeah, but Malta, I've definitely been to. It's gorgeous. So why Malta? What made you kind of set up there?
Well, I was partly raised in Malta, and some of my family's from Malta. So yeah, and when I finished uni in Edinburgh, came down to London for a little bit, and was working at the BBC. And then one day I remember seeing an ad on the tube for Malta, and I just thought, I'll go back and see what happens.
Calling you home.
Yeah, and I booked a holiday for 2 weeks, and that was it. I stayed for 15 years and built the business, and it's the kind of place where things happen very organically. You can fit a lot into your life. It's a tiny island, and it was amazing. Malta was amazing for all of that. It's still amazing. So a lot of our work, probably not the majority of it anymore, but a lot of our work is still in Malta, and there's a lot of good stuff happening there. So it's exciting to have multi-jurisdictional stuff. But again, I'm so impressed now, and I'm curious whether this remains, but are we going to go back to the in-person, or are we going to keep the remote? And I think keeping the remote allows you to pack a lot more in actual fact, and then you can be really purposeful about what you actually want to go and do. I love that side of things.
I think that, remote is great. I think that even before COVID, we did a few Zoom stuff here and there, and I like the fact that more people are open to that now because it's the norm. I just love a face-to-face interaction. I just don't think it gets better than that. I think that
100%.
Every time we've ever had a client come face to face, and it seals the relationship, and it's just, you work so much better. But I do like the fact that you can do anything anywhere in the world remotely. So I love, for example, when we work with clients, I want to do, I want to have that face-to-face relationship. So we will go to their offices, they'll come to us, and we'll do socials together, but we'll still jump on Zoom and do a lot of communication that way. So I think it can be flexible. I just think that face-to-face is so much better. So I will do that where I can, but I'll naturally cut down. And I think it's great in terms of travel. And you said, you mentioned earlier about sustainability, and it reduces carbon emissions if you're traveling less. And I think that people used to just fly to different countries all the time for a meeting. It's kind of crazy thinking about that's what they did. Whereas now they just jump on a quick Zoom call and be done with it. And it's okay to do that now, which is so bizarre that so many big companies, traveled to countries all over the
for an hour-long meeting. You'd be on a plane to the other side of the world. Absolutely. And
it was bizarre.
It was bizarre. And I think hopefully now we are moving into a new phase where, yes, the world's opening up, so we have the option to do it, but again, we can choose to do it where we need to and want to do it, and the rest of the time we go online.
Exactly.
And it's a nice mix. Nice mix.
I think so. I think it's important.
So yeah, I would certainly not be running the business from a boat if these massive changes hadn't taken place in the world. So I think, if I'm honest, yes, probably it is. I totally agree with what you said, that relationship building part of any business relationship is so much better face to face, isn't it? Like when you can meet people early on and you can really connect with them. So I think now is the time to be building that back into the model and finding how we can do that in a really effective, efficient way, and then enjoying the rest of the relationship as remote as possible.
When you go to your meetings in London, you said you still do occasionally. Do you sail there, or do you get out and get normal transport? I'm curious.
I very much get normal transport. No,
okay.
So a cruise to London from here would probably take about 2 weeks.
Oh my God. How did you even grasp the concept of how slow it would be?
It is so slow. Well, just to put you in the picture, these boats tend to go at 3 to 4 miles an hour. So you can walk faster than that. So I could walk to London in the time that it would take me to get the boat there. But the plan is definitely to come along the Thames and actually have some time in London, actually, maybe 3-4 weeks, and then, batch loads of in-person and stuff. So, but if we're coming, we're coming. We're not coming for the day.
Okay. I was going to say, I was not expecting to say 2 weeks. I thought, okay, maybe it'd be slow, but you'll go there, you'll stay a couple of days and go back. But wow, 2 weeks. Okay.
I think maybe I don't know if you've ever been on a canal boat, Zarina, but they're amazing, and I highly recommend you do. There's some in London where you can just go for the day for afternoon tea or something.
I've been just to have drinks. I've done that. The summer parties on the canal boat, they're fun.
Such fun. But when you're actually moving along the canal, you have to do something called locks, where you have to put the boat up and down. That takes absolutely ages. I cannot tell you how long it takes to get a boat in and out of a lock. It's a good, 20-25 minutes to kind of get it through. So that adds to your journey. And there are hundreds of locks. Hundreds of locks. So no, we're not going to zip into London for a quick meeting.
How ridiculous that question turned out to be. That's brilliant.
No.
So tell me about the agency then. You run an 18-person PR agency from a boat, which, we've established is an incredible thing. So tell me more about what you guys actually do.
So the kind of ethos behind the agency is that we take an outside eye to the businesses that we work with. It's so hard, isn't it, when you're running a small to medium business, which is the kind of businesses that we mostly work for, to kind of stay objective, to make sure that you're kind of bringing that outside perspective to your business. Things aren't getting, you're not being complacent, you're not missing things. It's really hard because the founders generally are very involved and they're kind of in the weeds with the rest of the team. So our job is to come in and sort of finesse the whole process, whether it's your communications, your customer care. So we go a little bit further than the PR, although the PR is a big part of what we do. We tend to come in, assess the way your customer journey is working at the moment. Are your communications working? Is your customer care working? How's your team? Are they engaged? Are they excited? Are they happy? Are the products working? So we do a lot of mystery shopping. That's a big part of what we do, coming in and taking an outside eye. And then we sort of assess all of that data, make sure we're clear on what we tell the client. And then we make loads of recommendations about how they can improve from the communications. So is your website working well? Is your social media working well? All the great stuff that you guys do, to the PR side, to actually coming in and training. I'm also a business etiquette consultant. So actually coming in and training people on the communication side of things from a front facing. So it's quite vast. It's lots of fun. It's very exciting. I think the Great Resignation has sort of, put a really interesting spin on things. I think it's more important than ever to really make sure that your team are happy and engaged, and that you as the founder, as the CEO, are really cognizant of the process that your team are going through on a daily basis. Are all the various departments talking to one another in an effective way so that one isn't feeling left out, or one isn't feeling like I don't know about you, but we so often see with our clients that marketing is working in a bit of a silo to operations, which can mean that, marketing is taking a decision that operations can't implement. Or on the other side, operations is doing amazing things that marketing don't know about. And equally, that happens all the way through the organization. So it's an opportunity to bring all of those together, to look inward and make them more cohesive.
So you just told me a load of stuff that we don't do. And I'm just like thinking, okay, well, that's not what we do as a service. But it's so funny the amount of people that think that's what we do as a business. They just hear marketing and they assume that's the same stuff. But yours is a whole experience thing, and it's actually going much deeper into the cogs of how the business works. And it's actually, rather than, we kind of, I guess, hope that stuff's already in place and that the business is already working well, and then we'll market what's a good business. Hopefully that's generally what it is. But do you also have the same thing where people just completely mix up what PR and digital marketing is?
All the time. All the time. I mean, and they are different, but I mean, they're part of the same function, aren't they? So they need to sort of, I think it's very important to understand the different functions of your marketing from the sort of, they're so vast, isn't it? The digital side of things, the more traditional side of things, then the PR, which is all about the relationships like you were talking about earlier. You cannot have effective PR if the people that you're PRing are not ready to go to the media. They're not good spokespeople. You don't have a great media kit. You're not kind of PR ready. Marketing's less about that. Marketing's more about, putting yourself out there the way you want to be seen. Whereas media, the PR side of things is making sure that people are talking about your business. So for me, that's the major differentiator. Marketing is about the message you want to put out there. And then PR is how you want other people to see you and speak about you. And that can be the media speaking about you. It can be influencers speaking about you. It can be word of mouth. Word of mouth is a huge part of PR that often is forgotten. So yeah, for me, that's how I differentiate. Do you agree with that? Does that
I totally agree with that. I definitely think there's crossover though. Huge. So there's definitely crossover. I think that's where it gets a little bit difficult because, we do most forms of digital marketing, and, there are elements of what we do that then cross over into PR a little bit, but then the company probably wants more of a PR service, which we can't offer. And that's when we partner up with agencies like yourselves who do offer that service. But, where would you see the biggest crossovers and all the kind of most common requests where there is a crossover between PR?
I think influencer marketing is a big crossover between PR and marketing, just because influencer marketing has that element of being talked about, But of course, often there is a transactional relationship there. You're paying for that relationship, or for whatever reason, you've created a collaboration with this particular influencer. So for me, there's a lot of crossover there. Equally, PR is changing. It's having to keep up with the fact that the media is changing. Some of the most powerful media brands today are owned by individual people, individual influencers. So today you might be just as happy, or it might be just as powerful to get exposure on a YouTube channel that is really useful to your clients, rather than to be on, I don't know, Good Morning America or Good Morning Britain or whatever it is. So PR is changing. And I think we both, on both sides of that, have to be very cognizant of that. And at the end of the day, for both marketing and PR, it's about going out and reaching your audience where they are and speaking in a way that resonates with them. For me, that's kind of the crux of it, right? It's having the content that is going to grab your potential audience, your desired audience, grab their attention, and then speak to them in a way that's going to make them take action. And whether that is PR, whether that's marketing, there's a lot of crossover, and making sure you're prepared to do that effectively.
Do you get a lot of people, though, who come to you guys as a PR agency who clearly just want to be famous and you know, are just sort of like really arrogant, perhaps, and just sort of like, oh, I'm amazing at this, get me featured in absolutely everything because, you know, I'm awesome. Like, do you have people like that?
So we have no arsehole policy at the Finesse Group.
That's brilliant.
I'm quite strict about that one, actually. And no, if I get a whiff of somebody that I don't think is going to be fun for us to work with, or somebody that we don't want to work with, I'm not going to put the team through that. We've had that in the past. It's no fun working with people who are super arrogant and are in it for the wrong reasons, and they're just going to be disappointed, right? I can't make anyone famous. It doesn't work that way. So no, I would say there are no clients that come to mind who I would say are in that category. But yeah, I think if I'm out and about and I say we're in PR, then you might get that question. But yeah, I don't know about you. Do you have a no arsehole policy? It was one of the best policies I ever put in place.
It's no dickheads in ours, but yeah, same principle. But it goes with no bullshit as well. So.
Exactly.
It's really good.
I this is the best thing about running your own business. And again, there are lots of things that aren't great about running your own business, but the best thing about running your own business is that you can decide who you want to work with. And that for me would be an instant no thank you.
Yes, it is. I'm so glad you said that. It's so funny. But yeah, we have dickheads policy. We've had to fire clients because of that reason. And it's one of the hardest things I had to do at the beginning. Now it's got a lot easier, but
exactly.
So especially when you think, oh, that's money, and you think, oh, you know, the company could deal with that extra income coming in. But then, as you said, you look at how they're treating your staff and the morale, and that money does not balance out the negative effects that it has on the company. So we've learned to read those signs and, you know, fire clients and obviously not take on clients that we think will have that same sort of thing. So we do have a few questions that we ask clients at the beginning to kind of test that no dickhead policy sort of thing. So we definitely do have that, which I love. But I do think that, you know, we've definitely come across a lot of people who are just sort of looking for PR agents or whatever because they think they want to be famous and they think they've got what it takes. And I'm sure there are lots of agencies out there who will take them on, though.
I wish them the very best.
So who do you sort of work with? What's your ideal sort of client?
So we're kind of, that's a good question. We're thinking about that at the moment. I think as we sort of, you know, we look around the world at the moment and everything that's going on, the darkness and the light and all that stuff, we want to lean towards the light. We want to lean towards working towards brands that we really line up with on a value proposition perspective, on a moral perspective. We want to be doing our bit to change the world, as kind of, you know, as basic as that sounds. So we are always looking for brands that are doing something really good, really exciting, whether that's in the NGO space, whether that's in the SME space, the tech space, the sustainability space. I'm not going to lie, those are the kind of brands we get most excited about because we feel like we can have a positive impact through them. And there are great stories to tell. So anything around innovation, like I said, sustainability, that's really exciting. We love startups. But then equally, we love strong, great stories. So stories of people that, have overcome adversity to run their business, who are doing something amazing for their community, doing something amazing for their team, just have a really interesting story to tell. PR is really hard if you have a bland person who's just not going to have an opinion and who's not going to, say something or stand for something. That's really hard to go to the media with and be like, hi, I've got a really good story for you. This person can talk to you about being vanilla. It's just not going to work. So our job is to sort of find these great stories, and I think that is one area where we want to spend more time. We want to go looking for these great people who deserve great PR, and sort of say, look, you do deserve to be a bit more famous. You do deserve to get yourself out there, and then hopefully that's a nice flywheel for them that they'll get sort of more success around that. So I think we work with all sorts of brands. We love them all. We bring the same energy to the table, but it's hard not to be particularly passionate about brands with a really great great message to get out there.
So how do people know if they need PR though? Because I feel like, not a lot of vanilla people don't realize they're vanilla for a start. Other brands don't realize how great they are. So, they need to get their brand awareness up and get their name out. How does someone know they're ready for PR?
So I think one of the questions is, obviously, if you're starting to, what that's like, Serena, you're in that flywheel, right, where things are starting to go and your business is starting to grow, and that's a really exciting phase. And I think what you want to build traction on is, are other people talking about us? So if you feel like your brand is going places, but not enough people are talking about you, not enough people know about you. Now, this might not necessarily relate to products. Your products might be flying off the shelves. You might have customers, but maybe they're not excited enough about your brand. Maybe they don't know enough about you. They don't realize what differentiates you. That's, I think, when somebody needs PR, when they feel like there's a story that isn't being told. And, self-awareness is critical to this process. People need to be able to, and you'll know this, we all know this in business. It's one of the most important skills to be able to look at yourself, to look at your business and genuinely think, I bring something special to the table. We have a great story to tell. And I think that's when people really need to be going into the PR side of things for the right reasons, as opposed to what you said earlier, which is, hi, I just want to be famous. I don't know. For me, that's not a sustainable move for success on a PR campaign. But yeah, I think it's definitely about looking inward, looking where you sit within your competitors, within what you're bringing to the table, and then genuinely saying, yeah, I have a story to tell. I have a point. I have something I want to say to the world, and I'm ready to do that.
A lot of startup owners, that's what they do. They start a startup because they want the attention. They then go for funding. They spend all their life seems to be just going for funding. Like, they don't even have time to work on their startup because they're working on all their pitch decks and
Yep.
the VC stuff, and it's just kind of crazy. And then they just land a bit of money and they're like, great. Then they put a press release about it, about how amazing they are for landing that money. And it just seems to be that kind of cycle of stuff. And they just want that exciting story where someone's landed £5 billion of investment, and they want those. They live for that rather than actually creating the product or service that they promised to do. And it seems like a bit of a strange thing. And I want to know, I guess, how much in your experience of PR have you worked with different companies where they've been promising a lot of stuff and it's great PR, but actually it's all a load of bullshit, basically.
It's not delivering. Yeah, that does happen a lot in the startup space, doesn't it? It's very frustrating as the marketing and PR team behind that to be kind of like, okay, what next? What next? We need the social proof. We need people to actually, talk about how you have delivered on what you said you were going to deliver. And yeah, I mean, this is again where we come to it from the finesse side, which is we need to really understand your process. We're not going to dive into this before we know that you are ready for this, and before all the different elements are lining up for us to tell a great PR story. Because yeah, you can get PR for about anything. You can pay for PR if you want to, but I think without a genuine story and a great person who's going to really live that story, it's not going to be a successful campaign.
So how would you must have had people come to you and ask you to promote something that's unethical, or you clearly feel like there's something shady going on. They just want the press to boost the brand or themselves, but they're not going to deliver. Have you ever had people like that where you think,
oh yeah, we turn down a lot of work. We turn down a lot of work in spaces that perhaps just don't feel right to us. I'd be lying if I said we hadn't made mistakes there. I mean, it's sometimes it's really hard to do due diligence on, where companies might be getting their money from, or, you might see this kind of little front of CSR and something that you really agree with. And then if you look behind, then you can realize that there's a whole sort of shady element to it. So we do have to be careful. And I think in general, businesses have to be more and more careful because the world is waking up to the fact that not everything is rosy, and that it's our responsibility about where we put our money. I know PR people who've been burnt themselves because they didn't do enough due diligence on certain brands. And that's horrible, because you want to believe in the brands that you work with. You want to believe that the people that you like working with are doing good things. But yeah, due diligence. I'm finding it really hard to say that word.
It's not that easy.
Due diligence is becoming so important in our space, because at the end of the day, if you can find something to be worried about, the press, the media, the influencers, they're going to find something to be worried about. And the world is increasingly becoming about personal connections, people that you are happy to look up to, brands that you're happy to connect with, that you want. The power of the consumer now is huge, where people want to spend their money. It does come down to a value set match. And yeah, as a PR marketing person, you have to ask those questions. It's not worth it. You don't want to be working with somebody that's not doing something good.
Well, that's it. Like, how important is it to you to really believe in the brand that you're working with as well? Because I feel like you can do a job. Say you just if you're good at your job, you can probably do it, right? You could still do good work with it. But how important do you think it is to really truly believe in the brand?
For me, it's more important than ever. It's more important than ever. I think even what we've seen, in recent weeks and stuff, it's just, things can come crumbling down very, very quickly. And I think your integrity is something that we have to really, really cling on to. So I think, had you asked me that question 3-4 years ago, I maybe wouldn't have understood the gravity of it as much as I do now. Now it's absolutely critical that we are asking questions as PR people and marketing people, and just making sure that it's a match, because crisis management is a huge part of PR. We do that a lot for our clients. And if you can't stand by your clients and fight their corner when they need you to, because suddenly you see that there's a glaring issue that you personally have a problem with, that's a messy, messy place to be. It's happened to me once, and I really don't want to go there again.
Yeah, I can imagine that's definitely a situation you want to avoid for sure.
Definitely.
But what about the people listening who perhaps run a business or brand, or or working with other brands, like for example, a company like ourselves who work in marketing, but feel that the company actually needs proper PR. The problem is, I think good PR costs money, right? If you want it done properly, it costs money. Not everyone is going to have the luxury to have a PR budget. What would you recommend to those companies who perhaps don't have much of a budget? Is it even worth doing anything on PR, or is it worth, you have to wait to kind of save up that budget? What would you recommend to those who kind of want it, maybe do need it, are serious? They're not like they're unprofessional, they're too cheap to pay, but they just don't necessarily have it in the budget at the moment. What would you recommend to those guys?
So PR can actually be quite a small, easy thing to get started on. I think when you clear your mind a little bit and you think that PR comes in so many different forms. So for me, one of the most powerful forms of PR, especially at the moment, is simple networking, right? It's simply putting yourself out there in a space where your ideal client might be hanging out, to become the known authority in that space. So no, you might not be able to afford the PR to get a front cover. You might not be able to afford to kind of build up your network to the point where you're on live TV for a very, high profile program, but just simply putting yourself out there within your local community and becoming more well-known within a small space. That's exactly what you should be doing. So that could be as simple as joining your local chamber of commerce, joining your local hotel and restaurant association, or anything that is going to put you and what you do in a slightly different light. So perhaps if you're thinking about starting PR and you are a marketer, yes, it's nice to join a marketing association, but can you put yourself somewhere where you're going to be bringing different skills to the table from the people that are already in that space? And the answer is always yes, right? You can always add value. PR, your own PR, for me, doing your own PR is about adding value in a space. So go to a space that's a little bit different, whether it's guest blogging, teaming up with an influencer who has maybe a small following, so they're not got hundreds of thousands of followers maybe, but they're hungry and they're on a similar level to you, and they're happy to create a collaboration where you add value to their followers, where again, you're joining an association that's a little bit out of your comfort zone. Put yourself in a place where you are going to be seen as an added value authority, and that's your first step to PR. And that's free, right? Just takes a bit of time.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So Well, I mean, you just named a load of great things there. Like, so is that something that you perhaps recommend to brands? Say if they, want to do PR, but they don't have the money to invest in it yet. Do you think they should go ahead and do some exercises to help them on their journey first? Because like you said, how can you do good PR for someone who doesn't have the right media kit, doesn't have the right, all the things, the background to it, and, doesn't really have much to actually promote? It's like, so is that it? Should they like work on these little things themselves they can do and be in a good position to then basically take on your services and be able to do PR later and then actually invest in that properly?
Yeah, so I think a lot of our clients come to us when they're in a position to have a do it with you service rather than do it for you service. And that's what we recommend. And that always starts with a simple consultancy call where we understand the potential for their brand. And then every month we would just be making small recommendations of things that they can do within their community, within their industry, then slowly starting to build up. Very few people go viral, right? Very few people get famous overnight. And if that is your goal, I can't really help you. But if your goal is to sort of build up a little bit over time, to start gaining confidence, maybe start speaking on your topic so people start seeing you as an authority, so start getting speaker opportunities, start building up collaboration opportunities, start to become known in your niche, that's definitely something that, to be honest, with a couple of consultancy calls and then a really easy to follow checklist, anybody can do that.
So what do you see like the future of PR being? Because there's so many different ways of doing it. Like, we're on a podcast right now. This podcast is hot at the moment. Like, loads of people are doing it, and it is a great way of meeting people, connecting with them. It is PR for both of us PR right now, right? It's
definitely PR.
And so I think, podcasts are huge at the moment. What do you see like future PR being like in terms of, if to anyone out there like thinking about it, what should they be investing their time in?
Perfect. Well, that is such a good thing that you said right there. Like, this is PR right now. This conversation is a PR conversation. And that simply came out of a conversation that you and I had. We decided to go ahead and do this. And that is a PR opportunity right there. And you can then, both of us can double down on this. We can write content about this. We can put it out on our social media. We could send it again to our local association that maybe might be interested in hearing about PR and say, just send this on to your members and see what they think. So I think the question is, first of all, understanding where your audience are. So for me, the future of PR is, first of all, where is your audience? Because they might not be where you're hanging out. They might be hanging out in a totally different space. What podcasts are they listening to? What YouTube channels are they listening to? What influencers do they care about? For me, it's very different to the ones that I'm interested in when I look at where my clients are hanging out. So first of all, you have to understand your audience. You have to understand your ideal client. Once you do that, then it's about creating a human connection. So I think the world has gone through an unprecedented period of digital connection. Like we were talking about earlier, we're all Zoom connected, social media connected, we're all digital now. But I think we've been reminded more than ever, as you said, the human connection is unbeatable. There's nothing better than a human connection. So take your PR and make it human. Go and speak to people in person, hold an in-person event where you invite members of the local community to come and listen to you speak. That's all PR. Then, take a beautiful photo and send it to your local media organization, or ask an influencer to come along and attend and then do a little bit of filming for you. And in return, they get a free ticket to your event. Whatever it is, I think the future of PR right now is human. And what that basically means is finding ways to connect on a very personal level with your ideal client.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, because I think if there's one thing that the pandemic did, it is kind of make us all realize, something bigger than just the advertising side of things. Like they want to know who's behind the brand and what the company's all about, like, what their ethics are, the values, and they actually care now, which they never used to. I feel like that's what's changed a lot over the last couple of years. And I think it's really interesting, which I guess makes me ask another question that's a very trending thing. Like, everyone talks about personal brands. How important do you think it is for a company to have their owner or someone high up in the company have a strong and positive personal brand that represents their company?
Huge, absolutely huge. I think that, as you said there, people connect to people. I think we forgot that for a while. When I came into the industry sort of 15, 16 years ago, I didn't even have my photo on my website. There was this big drive towards anonymous brands and kind of appearing larger than you necessarily were, and sort of hiding behind the facade of a non-personal brand. I think that's changed completely now. You'll see that all the biggest companies are sort of putting their key people out there more. The founder story is very important because it connects you to like-minded people, and also serves as an inspiration, serves as an authority. So yeah, I think that for you to grow your personal brand, you have to be willing to put yourself out there. You have to think about what you're comfortable talking about. Again, whether you want to be controversial, whether you kind of want to be sort of less controversial. What are you passionate about? Can you bring sustainability into your brand, community into your brand? What are you talking about when you're not talking about business? I think is now a big part of your actual brand. It differs, of course, whether it's you, the founder, who takes the decisions, or whether you're an employee. And I think that's a company decision of who we're going to put forward, because it brings up all sorts of conversations about, okay, so we build up this person and then they leave and they take their personal brand with them. And that was a big part of the company brand. So you do have to tread carefully, unless it is the founder. And even if it is the founder, you have to tread carefully, because if you're going to be controversial about it, you have to be able to own that. But I think personalities are critical for PR today. And wherever there isn't a personality, then there's media training to be able to help you get that confidence to be able to go out there and go towards this new part of PR with confidence.
So funny you mentioned the controversial thing as an owner, because that's just so me. And it's like
every post.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like every post that I do on LinkedIn, like I get such a mixed response to it, because like a lot of people are just like, oh, like, are you sure you want to write that? That's like, can reflect really badly. And then other people are just like, I absolutely love what you said. Like, you are so right. And it's always a divisive thing. And I'm always really opinionated. But I think it's so on brand, because we're known as the no bullshit agency. That is our tagline, right? And the way we work, yeah, right. And those who love it. That's the difference, right? And they want to work with us and they respect it. So when we work with our clients, we're really honest. We will tell them, what we think of what their plans are. Like, if a brief comes in, we don't just say, yeah, we can do everything in your brief. I'll actually look at that brief and like, I don't think that's actually the right thing that you need to do. And here's what I think we'd do. And actually, I'll be honest with them. And the same sort of thing, if they send back some ideas, we'll be like, that one might work, but this one might. And, and I'm always open and honest like that. And so I'm like that on my LinkedIn, and not everyone likes it. But this is us of how we filtered out our clients, right? So same with our website. The first thing you see when you land on the website is the no bullshit agency. Like, it's obviously going to have an instant impact on someone. So either people are going to be like, oh, that's different and refreshing, I kind of like that. Or they're just like, oh, how inappropriate, and then click off it. And so you immediately filter out your leads that way, because those people.
That's what I was going to say to you. Do you want to work with the people that aren't a good fit for you, that you're going to constantly have to sort of talk about the reasons why you're doing something, constantly have to justify your decisions? You don't want to do that. So like you say, you're filtering out those people before you've even started. Great.
I know. So it's actually a time saver. It's amazing. And I think so everything I do fits with the brand anyway. So I think that that's really important. But not everyone gets it. But I think those who do get it are the sort of true fans, so to speak, as we talk about, and they're the ones who are going to want to work with you. And hopefully those people then will refer other people, again, sort of working in the same thing, same sort of values, same sort of ethics. So I think it does work. But I'd love to know the difference between, I guess, PR for a personal brand and PR for a business, because even though they're technically still both business related, there must be differing ways that you would handle a personal brand PR compared to the company one.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, so we do work primarily in the B2B space. It's the area where we're doing most of our work. And I think that allows us to have a nice impact through these businesses. I really, really enjoy working with businesses. I guess there's a lot of similarities, right? So both of those, the same thing: great media kit, great photos, great message, real clarity around what you're doing, understanding your audience. And for me, that is the crux. So in B2B, your audience is other businesses and speaking to people who are in a business mindset. Personal brands, you're probably leaning more towards consumers, people that are in a consumer mindset, people that are in a personal mindset. So that is the major difference. It just differentiates where your message needs to be seen and heard and read. But otherwise, a lot of the elements remain the same. You need to be prepared. Somebody needs to know how to talk about your message. Somebody needs to know how to put their best self forward in order to make the best possible impression. So yeah, a lot of similarities. The difference to me is the message and probably also the budget.
I think, you just mentioned one of the key points about all of this when it comes to any form of marketing, and PR is a form of marketing, is
Absolutely.
that, is it's all about your audience. And I think people forget that. That's one of the
They forget it all the time.
It's crazy, right? It's like the
Okay.
amount of times that we do stuff and they're like, oh, I don't really like that. I'm like, yes, but will your audience like it? Because it actually sort of doesn't really matter. Like if you that connects with it, if you are not actually your target audience, like you might be behind the brand, but actually if you're selling something that's not for you, then that's what it is. It's all about your audience. And I think people forget that they come first, and that's who you're aiming everything at.
Totally. I mean, we're actually StoryBrand certified. I don't know if you've read the book StoryBrand. I don't know if your listeners have.
I'm very much aware of StoryBrand. Like I think it's a lot of people have been talking about it.
It's amazing.
I'd love to actually talk a little bit about that, like just how you found it and why you've decided to go down that path.
So we went down that path. I'd always wanted to. Donald Miller is the author of the book. He's a fantastic business mentor, fantastic just author in general. And he started StoryBrand to basically bring the storytelling, the conventions of storytelling into business and into communication and writing. And StoryBrand was started as a podcast, aside from the book. And I started listening to that a few years ago. My husband got me onto it. And I was like, this resonates so much, right? I'm always writing copy, always sort of creating PR where our client is the center of the story. And that's wrong. That is wrong. How can you possibly consistently expect people to get excited about somebody that isn't them? And that's just, the world is changing so much and so fast. And what we're doubling down on is that we are the center of our own universes. We want to hear from people that resonate with us, that can make our lives better. We don't want to hear about how we're going to make their life better. That sadly, possibly doesn't resonate. So StoryBrand is very much about putting your client's client at the center of the story, making them the hero of the story and making your client the guide. So that's how you have to position yourself. You are the person who's going to make your hero's life better. And by coming to you with whatever it is that you do, how do you make their life better? And that's what we don't talk about enough in marketing, in PR. We're too busy talking about ourselves, or we're too busy talking about our clients for their clients to resonate. So it's totally changed the way we operate. The book is fantastic. Being certified in StoryBrand has been nothing but a pleasure. And yeah, I highly recommend that anybody who's thinking, I don't understand the hero, the guide, just read the book or listen to episode 65 of the StoryBrand podcast.
I think you just summed everything in PR marketing there, because it's just like, also you just said like how they started as a podcast and look what they've turned into. They've turned into this epic brand that everyone in the industry talks about. And it's just like, from a podcast. So that just shows you all these little things that you do and you spend a bit of time on, whilst it's very difficult to be able to determine the ROI on all this stuff, because it's, you're spending all this time, but maybe not seeing direct monetary gain. The gain that you get eventually is huge. So I think it sums up the PR and marketing a lot. So it's amazing. But yeah, I think it's been so fantastic talking about this stuff with you, because I think it's really interesting, and I still can't believe that you're sitting there on a boat having this conversation right now, which is so cool. But how can people get in touch with you if they want to ask you some more questions about PR?
Sure. So on Instagram, we are at By Finesse Group, and our team's on there, always happy to chat. And you can email me at joe@byfinestegroup.com. I'm also very happy to chat, and I've loved it. Sabrina, this is such a nice show. It's such an important sort of conversation to be having, and sort of bringing no bullshit to this industry can only make it better.
Absolutely. I think that is one thing that so many people say to me. They're like, I've never met someone in marketing who's actually honest. It's a refreshing take, but I feel like that's it. I want just people to realize what it's really like. I think then people can make a judgment. And again, you don't want to be lying to your customers at all, because they'll find out eventually and they'll just distrust you. So be honest from the start. 100%. Let's, shatter all the bullshit across the industries and just keep going. But I'll put that stuff in the show notes. And thank you so much for today. It's been amazing.
Not at all. My pleasure. My pleasure, Sabrina. I really enjoyed it. Lovely to see you as well.
Likewise. And thanks everyone who's been listening today. And if you've enjoyed it, then please remember to hit that subscribe button and leave us a good review. And, it will really help us. And hopefully we'll see everyone next week for next week's episode on No Bullshit Talks.